All right, let's get through this here. Hebrew apologetic of the week. Want to hear? Here you go. Hebrew apologetic of the week. Can we make fire on the Sabbath? Can you cook on the Sabbath? Boy, it is quiet up in here. No, because I got some pinto beans at home. They on slow mode at the house. Hebrew apologetics, we must give an answer for everyone who have a question concerning the faith with what? Meekness and with fear. Can you cook on the Sabbath? Okay, y'all are more expressive than this side. Can we cook on the Sabbath? Yes. If you have to. You sure? No, wait. Okay, it's an enigma, huh? All right, this side. Inquiring minds want to know, can you cook on the Sabbath? Okay, most of you say yes, but you have Ima Mary says no fire on the Sabbath, right? Hey, I want y'all to turn this heat off. That heat is ran by fire. I need y'all to cut it off. We don't want to be cold in here. Hey, go tell the maintenance person to cut off the heat in here. Oh, they already did. You know what makes it so comical? More than what makes it really comical is listening to Carlos laugh. That's comical all by itself. So could we cook on the Sabbath? Can we develop a light on it? I'm not talking about microwave, but can we produce light or fire on the Sabbath? Hebrew apologetics is designed with you in mind because the Christian church are unable to answer questions. There's been centuries of questions that have went unanswered. We try to provide a platform to allow the word to speak for itself, to have what we call interpretive balance. Interpretive balance. The Bible is what we call interpretive methodology, which means the Bible interprets itself. When you understand the methodology of the scriptures, you understand how the scriptures design. We use the scriptures to define the scriptures. Hallelujah. So look at this. Shemot chapter 35, verse 2 through 3. Let's see if you're going to change your mind. Shemot chapter 25, verses 2 through 3. You shall kindle what? No fire. Now, in lieu of the scriptures, how many of you still believe that we can kindle fire on the Sabbath? With a show of hands. All right, some of you are still perplexed about the issue. Can you kindle fire? Because some super Hebrew done told you, yup. Shemot chapter 35. That's right, read. Don't kindle no fire on the Sabbath. We don't cook on the Sabbath. We prepare all of our food the day before. We make sure that we don't use no fire. All because the Most High. Now, we treat the Most High as if he speaks in circles. He speaks metaphorically or he speaks just in an allegorical way. That everything the Most High do is allegorical. When we don't use critical thinking skills as to why the Most High told us to do it. It's almost like cognitive analysis, we throw it out the window when it comes to the scriptures. Like we have no common sense. That will get us in trouble, and we'll begin to perpetuate regurgitated dogma that is the tradition of men, have nothing to do with the word of Yah altogether. So from those studying the commandments of Yah, with a desire to apply truth and not forsake truth, this commandment can often result in some understandable confusion, hasn't it? Absolutely. So quite often we witness even the Orthodox Jews, or what we call the Ashkenazi Jews. And what they did, they have added things to the commandments. And what we do is we think because Jews somehow know the way, they've been practicing this longer than we do. Sometimes what we do is we amalgamate to their dogma, and somehow we twist that with the scriptures. That's what the Pharisees did, didn't they? What they did is they twisted the scriptures by adding to the scriptures. In fact, remember in John where they had this conversation with Mashiach concerning the Sabbath? And they added 9 additional rules and regulations as to what you can and cannot do on the Sabbath. This is why Mashiach would often say 2 familiar phrases in the Brit Hadashah or the New Testament. He will say, it is written. When he says written, that means that you have the right interpretation of what is written. He's just using the Tanakh to continue to convey a message. But when Mashiach would say, you have heard it being said, notice his next words. His next words are, but I say unto you. In other words, you have the wrong interpretation of Tanakh. Now let me come to give you the proper meaning, the accurate interpretation of what the Torah is saying. So we look to them. So we look to these Jews as if they know it perfectly. But what happens is really a doctrinal distraction. And it adds more confusion than it adds clarity. All right. Let's continue. So some of these traditional Jews practices as it relates to Exodus or Shemot chapter 35 would appear rather odd to many. Some of those odd practices include, of course, what they do is they don't even use elevators because elevators require fire. So according to their tradition, you should not be on any elevator. Let's go deeper. How many of you drove here today, or you drove in a car here today? Do we have combustion? Do we have fire that take place in your engine? You started a fire. You in violation of Exodus chapter 35. That's right. You in sin. You should just be walking. Don't catch the bus. Get on your bike. Ride in the snow. So we don't use critical thinking skills when it comes to that. What we do not want to do, we do not want to add, or we do not want to take away from the scriptures. Is that correct? Right? Because what happens is when we add to the scriptures, we invent traditions, the traditions of men, what we call dogma. We add to the word. Adding to the word is transgression of the law. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2. Let's read that.
You shall not add to the word that I command you, nor take from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahuwah, your Elohim, that I command you.
Now, what is tradition? Tradition is what you believe before you hear. When we elevate our tradition over the scriptures, what does that do to the scriptures? It make it of none effect. Is that correct? Is that what Matthew chapter 15 says? We make the scriptures of none effect because of our traditions. This is why Mashiach says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, Mashiach said, unless your righteousness exceed that of the Pharisees, you will no wise make it into the kingdom. Why? Because Pharisees, they violated the Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2 law. They added to the scriptures. When you add to the scriptures, you convolute the scriptures, right? And they began to do practices that was foreign to what is dictated in Torah. They added to, that's why Mashiach said, listen, these Pharisees, what they tell you, listen to what they say. Because they sit where? They sit where? In the seat of Moses. He said, they know the scriptures, but he said, don't do as they do. Because what they were doing is they were adding to Torah. They had practices, what we call doxology. Everybody say doxology. They have doxological practices that was foreign to Torah. They were making it mandatory. In fact, we know Shaul in Corinthians, as well as Galatians chapter 5, he deals with those type of people, right? He deals with Judaizers. You want to be saved? You got to be circumcised. You ain't circumcised. He dealt with them. It's not necessarily the concept of circumcision, because we find in Romans chapter 3, verse 1, Paul is an advocate for circumcision. Paul says, what advantage do the Israelite have when it comes to the ordinances and circumcision? And he said, much every way, because circumcision, there's a benefit. But I want you to begin to understand that whenever you add traditions, listen, traditions will cripple a generation. Tradition will blind a generation. In fact, Mashiach said, the thief come not but to steal, steal, and that old sleep-footed devil, he come to kill, steal, and destroy, right? Hot Satan, he ain't no good. He come to kill, steal, and destroy. By the way, that's not talking about Hasatan. Hasatan is not even mentioned in the context of John chapter 10. He's talking to scribes, Pharisees, and in some cases, Essenes. And he's saying that the thief, what thief he's talking about? The thief called the spirit of religion. Religion will kill, steal, and destroy. But I come that you might have life, and that life more abundantly. Now, it'll preach, it'll teach that the enemy come to kill, steal, and destroy. That's part of his characteristics. But when we quote it out of context. Satan isn't mentioned in the narrative. He's talking about the spirit of religion will kill, steal, and destroy, and make people confused. Let's go to Mark chapter 7 really quickly. I only got 5 minutes for the Hebrew apologetic of the week. Mark chapter 7.
He answered and said unto them, well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me.
That's right.
Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of Yah, ye hold the tradition of men, as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such things, like things ye do.
Many other like things, like in the Talmudic religion, you can't, anything that produces fire, you cannot indulge in. Mashiach was talking clearly about washing of hands. Do you think he was also talking about their misunderstanding or their misconception of Exodus chapter 35 concerning fire? We don't think that far, do we? We don't use critical thinking. We don't use textual criticism when it comes to that. We just think, yep, he's just talking about, but he said, and other things. And other things. So we have to use the interpretive journey. We have to use what we call, we have to be interpretively balanced, the interpretive balance, as we're looking at the scriptures to rightly divide the word of truth. Let's look at that really quickly in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 15.
Be diligent to present yourself approved to Yah as a workman who does not need to be ashamed, accurately handling the word of truth.
Yeah. So I think sometimes in our studies, I think we forget. We go through this mental lapse. We are spiritually obtuse, that we don't look at what we call the inclusion of the text or the circumference of the text, and oftentimes what we call hermeneutics. I try not to use hermeneutics because of its pagan roots, but most of our words have pagan origins, and most of its etymological origins are pagan. But this is, of course, establishing correct understanding and application. So we got to look at and begin to use criticism. We have to begin to look at the scriptures through an objective lens so that we will not read into it, which we call eisegesis. Let's continue. So why would Yah not want us to light fire on the Sabbath? What is his purpose? Somebody said it over here. Say it again. 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 Work, work, work. All right. When you cut on your stove, are you working? See, we forget. Dwayne said, yeah, I be slaving. James don't eat normal. Oh, that's some funny stuff, boy. But it's very simple, right? So in verse 3, we find, as we just read, that fire is not to be kindled in where? Yes! Say that again, girl. In your what? In your dwellings. So does this mean that if I'm in the middle of a forest somewhere, away from my dwellings, I can kindle a fire? Technically, the answer would be what? Yes. Particularly if I already have, what if I already have my wood and I'm not working? And I just have the wood to create fire. Technically, does that fall in line? Is that a line with Torah in the commandments? If I already have my wood, I'm not working, but I already have my fire. In that day, was it work to do or to create a fire? Absolutely it was. Let's look at an example. Look at somebody who's gathering, who's working on Shabbat in Numbers chapter 15. Numbers chapter 15, starting at verse 32.
Now, while the sons of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering wood on the Sabbath day.
On what day? On the Sabbath day. Continue.
Those who found him gathering wood brought him to Moshe and Aharon and to all the congregation. And they put him in custody because it had not been declared what should be done to him. Then Yahuwah said to Moshe, the man shall surely be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp. So all the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him to death with stones, just as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe.
Just as he commanded Moshe. So why is he focusing on dwellings of those during this time as it relates to kindling a fire? The focus is what? It's work, right? So what purpose did fire in the dwelling serve opposed to random fire one might kindle? How do we juxtapose the two? What purpose did fire, the fires in your dwellings, serve opposed to any random fire that one might kindle? Say it again. Is cooking a sin on the Sabbath? No. It's not. So what is the difference between in your dwellings and any other place, any random place? Work. There we go. Say it again, girl. Say it again. Say it again. Work. Hard work. 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 Right. Hard work. All right. Work. Right, so this is a telling difference. Of course, we know Exodus chapter 35. I'm not for sure if I had it up there, but Exodus chapter 35, we go back to that, verse 2 and 3. It says, work shall be done for 6 days, but on the 7th day, you shall keep it what? Holy as a Sabbath unto Yahuwah. Whoever does work on it shall be put to death. We just saw that in Numbers, right? Because they were working. He went out to gather the logs outside of his what? Outside of his dwelling. So the fire we are not to kindle is the fire clearly related to the work of some kind or some way. So this is not necessarily the fire itself is the issue. The fire itself is not the issue. As, of course, a lot of people like to say to you, no, you can't on a fire. That's why you got to be careful listening to people. There's some people, oh, no, we can't do it. Oh, no, I can't come into the sanctuary if I do that. And we have had some, I can't say nuts, could I? We have had some people who are cuckoo because religion will drive. If you got any other mental issue, when you get a hold of religion, in fact, people who are mentally challenged are some of the most vehemently religious people on the earth. There's a connection to that. And only thing what this does, it augments that mental psychosis that you're dealing with. I got to teach that another time. I'm going to show you in the scriptures where even David and David himself dealt with mental challenges. That's why when we look at it, we just read it from an abstract Greek way. He anointed my head with oil. And we say, that's right. That's he anointed. Give me some olive oil. But the context from a Hebraic stance is I'm dealing with some mental issues. My head need to be anointed. I'm always looking for a need to be needed, a need to be accepted. Here's a man who's in the apex of his regime, and he's still looking for approval. Is there anyone in the house of Saul that I can show my kindness to? Dealing with insecure issues, defense mechanisms, codependency, trying to develop codependent relationships, trying to meet a legitimate need illegitimately, looking for that. That's why it is dangerous when you are not whole. Religion can be, certainly it can be a tool that will certainly give us catharsis. There are mechanisms to help us connect with the Most High, but there's something called divination, a swing of the pendulum. And we'll have another Jim Jones. I'm talking about Jerry Jones. He's on the brain as he's manipulating people in Texas now, but that's a whole different thing. All right, with this gas and all that. All right, but Jim Jones, you have another Jim Jones situation. You never have this charismatic leader who had dealt with some type of mental issues, get a hold of religion and will use that religion to sway individuals based on their sentimental weakness. Because we all got a weakness and we say, thus saith the Lord, God said. Because that's what religion is. Religion is the Latin word religio. Religio means to do what? It means to tie back. It means to tie back. Because we all are looking for the sense. We're in search of the Creator. We're in search of the Most High. And so instinctively, that's why most of the world are vehemently religion. Whether we're talking about Hinduism, we're talking about Jainism, Buddhism, Shintoism, Confucianism, Sikhism, Islam, Christianity. Most of the planet is looking to tie back, or they're looking for meaning or significance or purpose of life, but they're trying to connect with an ultimate reality, where the ultimate reality is monotheism, or whether it's polytheism, or whether what we call non-theistic, right? Non-theism. Non-theism is not atheism. Non-theistic individuals are like Buddhists. Buddhists are non-theistic. They believe that you can tap within yourself and find God. Everything you need is within you. You can use contemplation, what we call contemplative practices like meditation, in order to even go back to former lives that you lived. So you ever heard the term deja vu? All right, I can go back and say, wait a minute, that happened before. So they use all of these things to tap into themselves to alter the scale of consciousness. I don't know why I got on that, but we've got on that. But that's what most people do in terms of religion. How do we get on that? I'm not for sure. But which is the opposite of rest? So this is important. We should not be focusing on the fire. We should be focusing on what? Not working, which is opposite of what? The Sabbath. So this explains the difference between focusing on kindling a fire in your dwellings and simply just anywhere. Because if it was all about not kindling a fire anywhere, then Yahuwah would not have limited the instructions about fire on the Sabbath or the dwellings. So obviously the fire in the dwelling serves as a purpose, and somehow that purpose is contrary to what? Resting. Because the Sabbath is meant for what? What? Rest. So even in the Middle East, right, thousands of years, or ancient Near East traditions, this is what they used: a fire for everything, right? Fire was the element to facilitate much of their daily work activity. They did in terms of cooking and cleaning and tool and supply production. Everything they did surrounded with fire. This type of fire Yah is referring to is the fire that support working. Back then, they used fire to do what? To support working itself. So if you're going to use fire to support working itself, then it violates Torah. it violates Deuteronomy chapter 35, all right, or Exodus chapter 35. So those who are all caught up in the commandments of men and believe that they are to push a button, they are not to push a button, or they can't turn a switch on, they can't do this on the seventh. What happens is their heart is not in the right place. Because they are just like the Pharisees. They are adding into it. They're adding to the scriptures, and they're missing the intended message of the Most High. You got to look at the authorial intent. What were the intentions of the Most High? The intentions was what? Not to work, all right? So here's the modern application of this here, really quickly. The modern application. Why don't you read that for me? The modern application.
Starting a fire was not as simple as flipping a lighter today or pushing a button, nor is creating fire today intended, quite often, to serve our daily work. There is a mainstream practical usage of fire today that is not related to work and was not present in the context of Exodus 35, verses 2 and 3.
Have nothing to do with the context of Exodus chapter 35. Continue.
More often than not, simply keeping warm in colder climates comes to mind as such an example. In such circumstances, applying Exodus 35, verses 2 and 3 today as intended would mean having one's preparation for a fire done before the Sabbath, and then using the fire to keep a household warm, but not for daily work. The obvious critical difference to recognize and ask as it relates to Exodus 35, verses 2 and 3 is this: is the fire intended and used for work? How that question is answered defines the type of fire and thus enabling the correct application of Exodus 35, verses 2 and 3.
Absolutely. Now let's get the first century. In the first century, the followers of the Mashiach, they talk in the wee hours of the morning. Is that right? Even on Sabbath, they fellowship in the wee hours. Do that mean in the wee hours? Obviously, do that mean they couldn't light candles? You think they were just in the dark? Were they in the dark? What did they use? Lanterns. Candles. They use what? They use what? Because everything we see that the Mashiach uses, he's always referring back to Torah. And Torah is Isaiah chapter 46 says that if we want to understand the end, we go back to the what? The beginning. They use in their dwellings, they use what? Candles. In order to light a candle, you got to use fire, don't you? You see how critical thinking is thrown out? Why? Because obviously they knew the true intentions. They went in the Sabbath. We're just in the dark. We can't cut on no light. Don't you cut on that candle. Say it again. Interpret for her. What'd she say? That's right. The high priest. In fact, the high priest cooked on the Sabbath. They had to make shewbread on the Sabbath, right? What is that? Leviticus chapter 24. They made shewbread. In fact, they had to kindle a fire on the Sabbath. Why? The fire itself isn't the issue. It is about laboring and working. Now, that brings another question. Can the priests, can the Levites work on the Sabbath? Or do they work on the Sabbath? Yes, they do. And we have Billy. I worked this morning. Now, not servile work. Let's get my he out there working. Not servile work, but what we call redemptive work. And it's a lot of hard work preparing to teach people. Mashiach even said that. Mashiach said, don't you even know the priests work on the Sabbath? Then he transitioned and he said, the Most High work on the Sabbath. And the Pharisees say, what you talking about, Willis? This man is apostate. This man is heretical. This man is full of lies. He's Beelzebub. Is he talking about the Most High? No, the Most High in Genesis, he rests on the Sabbath. And Mashiach goes on to say that the Most High is working to redeem mankind. It's his redemptive work. He doesn't slumber. He doesn't sleep. On the Sabbath, so there's a difference between servile work and redemptive work. That's why Mashiach, when the ass was caught in a ditch. Did I say that right? I didn't use urban colloquialism, did I? Okay, let me change that. When a donkey is caught in a hole, is that better? Okay. When a donkey was caught in a hole, what did he say? He said, are you going to leave your donkey there? Or are you going to pull it out of the ditch? Why? Because that's not really servile work. That's redemptive work. Oh, no, I can't help you out. If I see you bleeding and things, no, I can't help you because it's the Sabbath. No, I can't help you there. You home. No, I can't do it. Because redemptive work is the purpose of what the Sabbath is for. He began to say that we don't work for the Sabbath worketh for us. We were not created for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was created for us. Why? Because all of Yah's commandments, they are not grievous. They're not burdensome. But the purpose is what? For our protection. And the Most High said, listen, I'm going to set a day that's reflective of my glory, reflective of my creation. So whenever a person denies or rejects the Sabbath, they're rejecting the Most High himself. They're rejecting his creation because it is a sign, it is reflective of his creation, of who he is. And he decided that mankind, it will rest on the Sabbath and made it a command. Because if not, we'll work ourselves to death. All right. So where are we? So I'm going to skip past all of that itself. So kindling the fire, here's the context. The context is related to our work activity or simply not resting, unless we want to ignore the context or the circumference of the text itself. Kindling a fire meant something in context in which it was given. Here's the conclusion of the matter, right? That we should not work to create a fire that is intended to support work. Unless you twin and working hard to prepare her family, right? And so that's important. We have to have the right interpretation of the scriptures itself. So here's the questions. Should we apply the commandments as it was intended to be interpreted, or should we apply it how our culture would interpret it? We got to go back and see how the Most High. Should the interpretations of the commandments of Yah change based on new generations, or should we interpret them through the generation in which it was given? The generation, in which it is given, because the principle is still the same. It is not working, have nothing to do with, nope, now if it's going to require you got to labor hard to create a fire, this is violation. But if you cut on your stove, that's not a violation. So should interpretation be based on culture, the culture of the reader, or the culture of the present time in which they were living? See, when we base it on our culture, then we sadly miss it. That's what we call proof texting. Everybody say proof texting. All right. So reality is, it's not complicated. We are to rest, not to work. It is for our benefit. It's for who benefit? Our benefit, so that we will not begin to get into the daily burden of work itself on the Sabbath. Read John chapter 5, verse 23. Because resting and spending time with your family and with your mishpachah, is that burdensome? Is that hard? No. That's why it says in Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 23 to do that, right? Is that we will gather together and make it a solemn assembly on Shabbat. Solemn assembly means a holy convocation, which means he wants you to come together. Now, I'm going to stay at home and just sleep and just watch television, and I'm going to click my television, and I'm going to eat, and I'm going to get on YouTube and watch my favorite Hebrew Israelite just read, and oh, I feel good. I had a good Sabbath today. Part of the Sabbath is for us to develop this holy convocation, we gathering together of the mishpachah for fellowship opportunity. Because we live in Babylon and we have amalgamated to Western mindsets, we have all but forgotten what it's like to be communal. Everything is individually. There are some Hebrews out there, I promise you, they do not do well within the group context. It's like, how are you going to make it into the kingdom? How you don't even have a kingdom mindset. Hebrew mentality is communal. It's communal. It's a family dynamic. That's Torah culture. As a family, I love you more than all the families of the earth. Yah takes the solitude, according to Psalms. He takes those who are in solitude and he strategically placed them in a family. Yah, family is Yah's perspective. I don't trust nobody. I don't trust no Hebrew assembly. I don't trust no Hebrew community. I don't trust nobody. I've been hurt by the church. I don't trust nobody. I'm just going to stay by myself, study by myself, do me. I'm going to just do it. That is so foreign from the scriptures. I don't know what I'll do without you all. I love y'all most days. 1 John chapter 5.
By this we know that we love the children of Yah, when we love Yah and keep his commandments.
That's right.
For this is the love of Yah, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome.
Are they burdensome? Oh, we can't do this. Oh, we can't do that. Now, we got to be careful to pay attention. But what is the meta message? The meta message is don't do any burdensome work and hard work in order to produce a fire. Had nothing to do with cooking. Go ahead. Now, preparation is important. I want to show you the importance of preparation. Well, what do preparation day have to do with it? Can I go there really quickly? Or you want to go ahead? You go ahead. Okay, let's go there. Because I thought. So, here's why I put up here. Notice the next one, Sam. If you're still apprehensive about this, look at it this way. I call it the Yolandaism. Let's look at it this way, all right? So, the commandment, you can continue to go, Sam. The commandment, so if you're still apprehensive, look at it this way. I want you all to see it yourself. There we go, you can stop right there. So notice the commandment is against the work of starting fire. So, but the pressing and grinding of wood that starts a fire, Most High is against that, but he's not against the fire itself. Because if the fire is already burning, what did I just say? If the fire is already what? During preparation day, if you leave the fire on, are you starting a fire? No, that's very important. Let's look at how this messianic prophetic significance of this. How many of y'all have your lamps with oil and lit? Okay, only some of y'all do. All right, so if you aren't laboring with grinding wood to start a fire, then how is a commandment broken? How is the commandment broken? Because where there is no law, there is no what? There's no transgression or sin. There's none. So here's the point. The point of the command is to teach our children to already have their fire kindled. So when Sabbath come or the day of the Most High come, you're not trying to go out to start your fire. Because the fire is already what? The fire is already what? And your source would be, it would be before the Sabbath, you will already have your fire what? Kindled. Before the Sabbath, right? So it's very similar to the extra oil for your lamps as you wait for the bridegroom to come. That's why he said, I am the master of the Sabbath. Everything that he does, folks, it is interconnected. There's a purpose why what we call teleology. Teleology means there's a purpose behind what the Most High does. Everything he does is for a purpose. It's for a purpose. And so we go back to the 10 virgins in the parable of the 10 virgins itself. Now look at Luke chapter 12. Let's read that now.
I am come to send fire on the earth. And what will I, if it be already?
If it already be what?
Already kindled.
Already what? Already what? Already kindled. Continue.
But I have an immersion to be immersed with, And how am I straitened till it be accomplished? Suppose ye that I am come to give peace on earth? I tell you, nay, but rather division. For from henceforth there shall be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3.
So what is the ultimate purpose of the Sabbath? And the whole notion of kindling fire is because the Sabbath command is to teach us always to do what? To stay ready and to be watchful. The same way they did when the 10 virgins, 5 was ready. They already had their fire and their lamps, but the other 5 did not. So we have to understand it that way, because the Mashiach is going to return and we need our fire already be lit. So there is a significance between this as we look at this here. And so that's why when he comes back, obviously we know he goes on to talk about there's going to be division and all of that. So as you can see, as I close, it's not about having uncooked cold food. We get to eat cold food on the Sabbath, right? It's not about, I can't burn no incense or do any of that. So it's about being prepared to worship him prior to his arrival by getting the work done before he arrives, before he returns. Hallelujah. So can you kindle a fire on the Sabbath if it doesn't require labor? Okay, y'all still confused. Can you kindle a fire on the Sabbath if it doesn't require labor? Yolanda? Okay. Anyone? So we got to always follow the scriptures, right? You have to be like the Bereans and search. Unfortunately, a lot of camp doctrine don't use context. They use precepts. They don't read the circumference. See, it said right here, Exodus chapter 35, verse 2, we should not kindle a fire. See, we can kindle a fire. But what is the circumference of the text? The circumference of the text is the whole purpose. The Most High isn't against fire itself, because he allowed the priests and others to kindle a fire on the Sabbath. But the whole idea and notion is that you will do no servile work. And if kindling a fire requires you gathering logs and going through the arduous process of developing a fire, then it violates Torah. So, for safe practices, keep your stove on. Hallelujah. Because the whole purpose is what? That's right. So the emphasis is not fire. The emphasis is not working on the Sabbath. You see how it's important to rightly divide the truth? All right. How many of y'all gonna cook when you get home? No, my food, I ain't gonna do anything. I warm it up in the microwave.
You said the key word there, and it's to prepare.
That's right.
And we have to prepare ahead of time.
Prepare ahead of time. That's right.
If you look at Jubilee 2:29 and 30, it tells you that you shouldn't be eating, drinking, bringing things in and out.
That's right.
Feed yourself that you had not prepared for the day.
Why? What is the purpose? Because it's work. So preparation day is, so it's not like, well, it's almost like, well, I prepared the day before, but I can't warm it up because it requires fire. You see how asinine that sounds? But the labor, does it, now if it requires strenuous labor, you should not get involved with that. But we can't give into the Talmudic traditions. Talmudic tradition says, nope, we got heat in here and it's ran by fire. Nope, we can't kindle that fire. But the purpose is not for the sake. If that's the case, if you are in a cold climate, we praying for you. We praying for you. All right.
Great Awakening announcements. Hebrew Academy. Want to be awakened to the truth of the scriptures? Are you curious about the Hebrew faith? Want to be trained for ministry? Ever get the sense that there's something more to or lacking in the Christian faith? Want to know how to defend the faith against centuries of lies told in Christianity? Take a seminar to learn more, or take classes to earn a certificate. Over 40 courses offered in a classroom setting and or online. Take classes at your own pace. Seminar/classes taught by renowned scholars in the Hebrew faith. Go to www.thehaod.org.
Ma shlomcha. Ma shlomcha. Shalom, Ima.
Shalom. How are the classes going?
Yofi.
Yo, what?
Yofi. It means beautiful. I'm learning a lot about business, Hebrew culture, Hebrew language, and history. It's so cool. I feel like I'm learning a lot of things I never knew before. And best of all, the teachers make it really fun.
Wow, we should tell everyone.
Oh, I already started telling them. I told Xavier, Zay, Shelly, Teresa.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that's Yofi.
Don't miss out on this learning experience. Lions Whelp Hebrew Academy for Children. Join today.
Lions Whelp Hebrew Academy for Kids. Do you want your children to know their history beyond 1619? Are you tired of the miseducation of the American school system? Are you looking for a Hebrew curriculum for your homeschool child? The Online Hebrew Academy for Kids is the perfect alternative. The Online Hebrew Academy, powered by Zoom and Moodle LMS, offers a virtual Hebraic education experience with live classes and interactive teaching. Students from age 15 to 17 are welcome in our virtual classrooms, where warm and experienced teachers provide an excellent Hebraic education, all in the comfort of your own home. For more information or to register, go to www.thehaod.org. Great Awakening Missions Team. The Great Awakening has created a missions team under the direction of Maura Gail McGee to go to the nations with great news. The mission team is a humanitarian evangelistic team of the Great Awakening that consists of volunteers from the Hebraic community who travel the globe to provide medical care, health education, biblical heritage, humanitarian assistance to people in need, and to share the gospel with the dispersed of Israel. Do you have a heart for mission? Do you want to join a team that's sole mission is to develop strategies and plans to carry the gospel and awake the dispersed in other countries? If you are interested in joining the missions team of the Great Awakening, please reach out to Maura Gail McGee by emailing her at missions.greatawakening400@gmail.com. If you would like to donate, you can donate one time or monthly via PayPal. The average donation is about $20 per month and will be deducted out of your PayPal account or debit/credit card. You will be asked to authorize PayPal to play Great Awakening each month. If you want to donate one time or monthly, please go to www.greathebrewawakening.org or PayPal at www.greatawakening400@gmail.com. Tune in to Let's Talk About It Moray's Roundtable, presented by the Great Hebrew Awakening, Hebrew Synegro International, and the family of the Great Awakening Assemblies every Monday 8 to 10 p.m. EST on Facebook and YouTube. The panel of Moray's broadcast live, spotlighting doctrinal issues, correcting miseducation, exposing false doctrines, unveiling the truth, awakening the nations, unlocking the Torah, shedding light on the scriptures, combining spirit with truth perspectives with live and experienced Morays from the family of Great Awakening Assemblies in the United States and Bahamas. Marriage Ministry. Are you looking to reconnect, repair, rekindle, and restore your marriage? Join the Great Awakening Bereaved Marriage Ministry, a monthly fellowship for married and engaged couples every third Saturday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Improve your communication, resolve conflict, and learn the biblical roles as ish/isha. All couples must register at www.greathebrewawakening.org to receive a Zoom ID and password. National Singles Ministry. Are you awakened, single, and looking for fellowship and accountability? Join the Great Awakening Singles Ministry, a monthly fellowship for awakened singles. The Singles Ministry includes interactive sessions, monthly speakers, activities, fellowship, and panel discussions. All interested singles must register at www.greathebrewawakening.org to receive a Zoom ID and password. National Youth Ministry. The Great Awakening has started a national youth ministry to minister to awakened youth around the country, led by Moray, Pat Brown, Moray Marcus Gooden, and Yoel Ben Israel. The National Youth Ministry connects youth to much-needed resources, providing an environment to display skills and offers a safe place to laugh, cry, worship, play, and pray together. The NIM provides an opportunity for the youth to see the Besorah, gospel of Yeshua HaMashiach, lived out daily by their peers. For more information, please go to www.greathebrewawakening.org. Moa Roundtable. The Great Awakening presents the Moa Roundtable, a national online platform that increases awareness, knowledge, appreciation for issues unique to women who have discovered their Hebraic roots. The Moa Roundtable is designed to educate viewers on trends and issues related to the rapidly growing Hebrew community. Panelists include Tawana Howard, Elishaba Demisi, Kayla Body, Kelly Frederick, Rita Stallworth, Gail McGee, and Tara Young. The Moa Roundtable debut will be Tuesday, February 16th, 2021 at 8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. CST, and 5 p.m. PST. Hebrews, Hebrew Brothers, Real Men Talk. The Great Awakening Hebrews to Negroes International presents Hebrews, Hebrew Brothers, Real Men Talk, a professional yet candid forum broadcast which appeals to both millennials and all generations, coming on alternated Mondays of the Moa Roundtable night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, starting in September with Moa Rico Say, Moa Ryan Robertson, Moa K. Britton Cook, Moa Roderick Frederick, Moa Will Johnson, Moa Pat Brown, and Moa Jesse Lassier. Voices of Zakane. The Great Awakening Hebrews to Negroes International presents Voices of Zakane, where elders of the Great Awakening become the voice of balance and reason to the Israelite community and the world at large by providing instruction by way of Torah and wisdom, exhort and feed the flock every other Tuesday night at 7 p.m. with Elder Eddie Stallworth, Dr. Michael Laws, Elder Maurice Wilson, Elder Clarence Jones, Elder Jimmy Sauls, and Elder Paul Bateman. Passover 2021 Gatherings. March 26th to the 28th, 2021, Indianapolis, Indiana. Join the Great Awakening International, Great Awakening Assembly Indy, and Potawatomi Inns and Cabins, Lake James, Angola, Indiana for Passover 2021, March 26th to the 28th, 2021. Passover 2021 includes interactive communal Seder meal and worship event, engaging sessions led by leading Hebrew voices, workshops, live and interactive panel discussions, recreational activities, Sabbath gathering, night of worship, great fellowship. Enjoy a rare opportunity to spend time learning and exploring this holy day with a diverse mix of people from around the country. Our community Seder meal will be led by engaging scholarly Hebrew leaders. Throughout the weekend, there will be a number of worship services, fellowships, programs, immersions, and activities to choose from. Families from all over will gather together with us to create a marvelous extended family and community. Weeping Daughters of Rachel Prayer Team. The Weeping Daughter of Rachel's Prayer Team, led by Maura Tawana, is an initiative of the Great Awakening, whose objective is to gather women worldwide to pray, intercede, and cry out against social, physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual issues concerning scattered Israel in accordance with the scripture. The Weeping Daughters of Rachel Prayer Team exists to pray for healing and deliverance for the dispersed, to prevent the conditions that augment depravity, restores heritage, obedience, and relationship with Yah, and bring justice to the weak and vulnerable. For more information or to sign up, go to www.greathebrewawakening.org.